I think it's a constitutional crisis. I really do.
Commissioners in southern Utah's Washington County refused to adopt Utah's new congressional map, accusing the judge who approved them of being a criminal.
I think it's beyond simple politics. It's a gross abuse of judicial power that has never been seen in this state in a way that I can't vote for it. So
the county's congressional district changed after a ruling by 3rd District Judge Dianna Gibson in November, but the county commission voted not to amend its code to comply with the new map during a meeting on December 15th. County Commissioner Victor Iverson led the complaints against the judge and made the protest motion.
I'd like to be out of compliance with the judge's order and have her come down and enforce this. I'd like to make a motion that we don't approve this item.
The judge's order is state law at this moment.
Victoria Hales, the county's deputy attorney, told commissioners during the meeting that the county would be out of compliance with state law if they did not adopt the new map by January 1st, and that she would legally advise against that.
The appellate court might overturn it, and then it would be different, or the legislature might do a workaround, and then it would be different. But right now, that order is law.
Commissioner Adam Snow asked Hales whether the county would be out of compliance with state statute or the judge's order.
The statute was altered based on a vote by the people under the Constitution, and she upheld that vote and then implemented the map. So,
yeah.
Victor's rolling his eyes. I'm not a commissioner. I'm just giving you legal advice.
I think she's guilty of criminal conspiracy for conspiring with Democratic, socialists, and with outside money to try to flip a district in the state and basically control Congress. And so that lady, who shouldn't even be on the bench, can come down here and pass this motion if she wants. She can throw me in jail for contempt of whatever. I'm tired of it. I won't vote for this motion, and that's the end of it.
Snow questioned how a move may affect the county staff and whether there was a better place to have the fight, but ultimately voted in support of Iverson's motion. The vote appears to be largely symbolic at this point. The Lieutenant Governor's office, which oversees elections in Utah, told the Salt Lake Tribune, "This decision will have no bearing on our ability to administer the election this year." Utah's Republican lawmakers filed a notice of their intent to appeal Gibson's ruling last week. The Utah GOP is also collecting signatures to put an initiative on the 2026 ballot that would overturn a ban on partisan gerrymandering.